YouTube, my name is Mesa Sean, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 news video. Alright folks, it's Thursday, which means we have a lot of Destiny 2 news to catch up on, and just sit back and relax. Real quick guys, I got a question for you guys in the comment section. Which DLC did you prefer? Forsaken or Shadowkeep? The reason why that I'm asking that is because Bungie will be addressing changes to the seasonal model as well as bounties. And I do see frequently in my comment section that you guys, or a lot of you, prefer Forsaken over Shadowkeep. Now, my opinion personally is I preferred Shadowkeep. I felt like at the time Shadowkeep came out, there was way more things to do. Now granted, we had Season of the Undying at the time, we had the new raid, we had the moon back, and also we had Armor 2.0 and an awesome seasonal artifact. I feel like we have not had a good seasonal artifact since the time that Season of the Undying hit. But yeah, just sound off real quick in the comment section. Shadowkeep or Forsaken? If you enjoy this video, a like rating is very much appreciated. And also, as I always point out, 61.3% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Kindly hit that subscribe button, as we are so close to 300,000 subscribers. We actually hit 292,000 this morning, and man, you guys have been crushing it. All right, let's get into the video, guys. First off, let's get an update on the good old Dorito ships, the pyramid ships that are inbound to our solar system. Now, LBR Gaming over on Reddit put together an image that really outlines and actually made some changes to when they actually might hit. Actually, he made a few revisions to it in a Reddit thread, which I will link in the description. So looking at the infographic, we could see week 1 all the way up to week 10 when Season of the Worthy will end. So yeah, more than likely they're going to be here at the end of the season. And he says, safe to assume that darkness will be in the orbit of Saturn at the beginning of the next season. Now, fun factoid, Titan is the first point of contact that is unprotected by Rasputin. And that still is why I have my theory that Titan is going to get nuked for the fall DLC. And I know a number of you will say, well, what about all of the exotic quests that are over on Titan? Don't worry, they'll just move them or make those exotics just world drops or something. But just like they did with previous exotics, they just move the quests. Next up, Io is the second point of contact that is protected by Rasputin and also has a Rasputin bunker, obviously. We also have Europa that supposedly was leaked, will be in the fall expansion, and well, Europa is a moon of Jupiter. In the last update, we did get a little bit of a cutscene that was hidden in the data files that Ginzer found. I'm going to link him in the description. He data mines everything. He found this little cutscene here where right at the very end, we see a pyramid in the orbit of Jupiter. Now, that doesn't really make sense because based on the map that we saw before, well, the pyramids are going to be at Titan at the end of the season. So I would think this cutscene we would see during, well, or at the end of this season, but it could be for next season. Who knows? Either way, the pyramids are coming. Now let's move into the This Week at Bungie for the 30th of April. And this one's a big one, guys. So like I said before, sit back. This one might be a long one. Now, the whole first part of it is talking about Guardian Games because if you follow me on Twitter or follow any of us on Twitter, well, there's a lot of debate as to, is this whole thing rigged? Because Titans have been non-stop crushing it and so forth. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because they provide us with some analytics here and there's a lot more important things to go through in this Week at Bungie. But let me just read you what they're saying here on what's going on in a nutshell. On day 1 of the event, Hunters won because, not simply because there are more of them, but because a greater percentage of them showed up and they contributed. On day 2, Titans arrived and began outperforming Hunters. Warlocks are no doubt considering all the angles and planning for the right moment to strike. I think that's a little cheeky shot at us Warlock mains because all we do is read books. All right, so this graph here shows how many of each class actually participated relative to how many characters each class had active during the prior 30 days of the event beginning. You can see the tight correlation between more bodies in the game and the outcome of the competition. They continue with, but that's not the whole story. Titans haven't just been overwhelming the competition with a flood of muscle mass, they've also been out-depositing the other classes on an individual basis. On average, each Titan has contributed more medals to their cause than each Hunter or Warlock. This was even true on day one, but on that day, there were enough hunters participating that they made up in bodies for what they lacked in output. This next point is pretty funny because I saw this one on Twitter and I was like, are they going to address it? And sure enough, they do. Check this out. We've seen the reports of shenanigans, one of my favorite words, with players finding glitches to turn in more medals or even being that dedicated enough to delete characters to be able to put in extra medals for their team. We dug into the data to see if this was something to be concerned about and found neither case was having any impact on the results. They also talk about how the flags actually work. So at the start of the day, all the teams are even, so the flags begin at the midpoint on the polls. This represents equilibrium, where all the teams have an even 33.33% of all accumulated points for the day. As medals get deposited and teams move away from equilibrium, the flags will adjust. We expected the teams would stay fairly close to each other and that all the action would occur in a narrow band around the equilibrium point. If a team ever pulls 5% ahead with a total of 38.33% of more of all points, their flag would hit the top of the poll. Likewise, a team dropping 5% behind at 28.33% or less will hit the bottom of their poll. If a team goes beyond these values, their flag will just stay pegged at the top or bottom until the values come back into roughly around a plus or minus 5% window. And they say, we don't plan on making any changes that will affect the results in any way. Our goal has been to create a competition that is decided on how much each class engages with the event, and not which class has a largest roster. Titans are currently engaging the most, but we will see how they keep up. So it's not rigged, guys. It's just the Titans, they're coming out in droves and they are participating. It's not that there's more of them, it's just that they're participating. Next up, let's move on to some really important stuff, how they will be evolving seasons. And Bungie said in last week's This Week at Bungie that each week they will be touching on something really important going forward on the evolution of the game. Last week it was all about changes to Trials of Osiris. Well, this week they're touching on bounties and how the seasonal model will change. So Evan Nikolich from Bungie kicks it off with talking about how the story continues. And he says, we've been making progress carrying over the overarching narrative season in Destiny 2. Saint 14 and Osiris led to Warmind, which will lead into Redacted. And they say, it's not perfect yet. The bridges between seasons can definitely be improved, and we could do a better job of recognizing prior seasons' narrative threads in the active season. In year 4, we're going to build a better interconnected narrative, and more importantly, let players be a part of that narrative no matter when they enter the current year. This means if you start playing in, let's say, March 2021, you could go back and experience the Season 12 and Season 13 narrative content. We want our stories to feel more cohesive, flow with the meaningful momentum seasons over seasons, and lead to an exciting climax at the end of each year. That said, for a narrative to have weight, there needs to not only be a meaningful change, but also a meaningful way to experience the history of the world. He says we haven't preserved enough history for a player who comes in mid-year to have any concept of what came in that year's prior seasons. As a result, players can feel left behind later in the year and unable to experience the stories or to acquire prior seasons' weapons and gear. The Forsaken Season Pass allowed its content to build up over the course of the year, and that's where we're heading into year 4. And yeah, 100% agree. I've got a lot of friends who tapped out during certain seasons and they just don't feel like catching up. There's too much for them to try to do to catch up to where we are now. Next up is activities will last the entire year. Check this one out. Beginning in Season 12, the core parts of the activity experience will live on after the season has ended. For late players joining in future seasons, we want to give you the opportunity to jump straight into the heart of the older activity experiences without having to do all the previous specific requirements. We want to remove any completed and distracting elements with the new season active, which has its own ritual progression, but the actual activity experience will stay. Now, this might be a little confusing, so he gives a nice little example here. He goes, for example, with our new approach, when Season of Dawn concluded, we could have left behind the Saving Saint 14 quest, the exotic quest that you acquire Devil's Ruin, Bastion, and the Sundial activity. We would just sunset the obelisk's experience to reduce clutter in the quest log and to keep the bounty quantity from inflating across the game and depreciate the fractaling currency so it could be safely removed from the player's inventory. The obelisks were time sensitive, and we do not want to overload a player's choice in engaging in the current seasonal ritual versus the past seasonal ritual. This is our current plan for year 4, but like everything else, these plans and exactly how content will persist will change and evolve as we work. Destiny 2 will have moments woven into the overall universe narrative where we will remove old content and allow for new content and stories to grow in its place. Bye-bye, Titan. I'm calling it now. As we've said in the past, we cannot continue to grow the Destiny universe infinitely. There's lots of reasons for this: technical, resourcing, as well as from an overreaching universe design standpoint. Finding the balance of creating and maintaining content in our ongoing narrative is a necessary part of continuing to build on Destiny 2. Next up, it's all about rewards remaining. Check this one out, guys. With the seasonal activities persisting, a player will need a good reason to go play them. The reason is in the rewards, and we are planning on carrying a season's rewards forward throughout the year. In today's Destiny 2, history is expressed by the things you have collected. We want players to be a part of the chase no matter when they enter the year, and to reduce the pressure to collect everything during a single season. In the short term, to acknowledge this step forward we are adding some selected weapons from Season 8, 9, and 10 to an engram that will drop during Season 11. Now, I wonder if they're going to have a special name for it. Let me continue here. Long term, we want to make sure that the rewards we release each season are available to players throughout the year. Continuing with our Season of Dawn example, the rewards that came out of Sundial would continue to drop from Sundial. How the drops will occur will change, as narratively, Osiris has left and we've removed the obelisks, but weapons and gear will still be present. This is an obvious solution, but it suffers from a design perspective in creating a narrow pursuit focus. Having the rewards in just one location will oversimplify the pursuit game and has the same effect of limiting the ways you can play Destiny. Our focus is to broaden and provide multiple ways for you to earn past season rewards. In addition to the rewards coming from the seasonal activity, we think of having the seasonal rewards be available to earn in the core modes of play. Things like Strikes, Crucible, Gambit, so forth. If you're getting tired of playing Sundial, you'll have the opportunity to jump into the Crucible or Strikes and pick up a couple of Season of Dawn weapons that we've handpicked. As the season will roll on, the rewards will continue to get added to the core activities, and as a player, you can tackle the pursuits at your own pace in your preferred mode of play and feel the world growing in terms of rewards. And they say, to summarize, we're going to move toward seasons that can be experienced all year long. The Destiny experience should grow each year after an expansion, have a meaningful, evolving world, and a bunch of reasons to play. And then each year, we should take a step forward into a new expansion. So they're pretty much confirming, well, we know we're getting a fall expansion. We just don't know when. And they say, we've done this better in the past, and we're going to mine from that going forward to make sure future seasons that much more is compelling. There'll be much more in year 4 to talk about in the coming months. I like what I'm hearing here. You guys let me know in the comments section what you're hearing. The one thing I was hoping to hear was a revamp of the seasonal model from the rank rewards, because I've said this numerous times. You should be excited every time you level up from 1 to 100. And every time I level up from 1 to 100, I'm just not excited about what rewards I'm getting, whether it's planetary materials, a legendary engram, an exotic engram, and so forth. I think the rewards in the season rank rewards need to be reworked. So what is Bungie going to do about bounties and how we always feel like we're playing Season of the Bounties? Well, here are their plans. So they're going to shift away from the weekly FOMO. XP and season rank gains are currently balanced around large contributions from weekly bounties. The intent here was to provide a large amount of progress for a small amount of focused play every week, but weeklies fall down here because you lose out on big chunks of progress if you miss a week. And they are strained between too little progress for single character players and too much repetitive work for triple characters. Bravo on that one, because I have barely played on my Titan or my Hunter this season. I've just been on my Warlock the whole time. Let me continue here. While the specifics are still under development, as early as Season 12, we want to make this better by replacing weekly bounties with a mechanism that provides players with a set of non-expiring and account-scoped objectives each week that grants a lot of season rank progress, more than the weeklies they will replace. That way, the return on effort is better, more consistent between players. We're in the home stretch, guys. I hope you're still with me here. We have optional XP optimization, we have event bounties, and also some quality of life stuff. So, for optional XP optimization, a not critical path, they say here, bounties have found their way into the critical path of some seasonal pursuits, becoming primary sources for seasonal progress. Starting in Season 12, we plan to steer away from this model in general. Bounties should focus on being an optional way to optimize for more or faster core progression, like XP or powerful gear by the way of challenges. When it comes to optimization, we recognize that there is a very blurry line between optional and mandatory, and there's no perfect balance that works for everyone. But we think the balance is tilted too far forwards, feeling like you need to do bounties to unlock seasonal content. So we're going to take the step to tilt things back. They address event bounties. Our seasonal free events are also currently heavily utilizing bounties in their design. We have seen the feedback around Guardian games being the most recent source of frustration, with too much emphasis on completing bounties to participate in the event. We do not plan on making any changes to the current event as it's ending in a few weeks, but are already looking at plans to adjust the role bounties will play in future live events. Lastly, we have quality of life improvements here. We do not like that every play session starts with 10 to 15 minutes of loading up on bounties. Yep, that's how it is for me. We want to make sure it's easier to grab bounties when you want to do them. To that end, we are looking at mechanisms that allow bounties to be accessed directly from the destination map. Alright, that is an awesome idea, Bungie. These are a bit further out, and they think Season 13, but they are on their roadmap. They continue with, we also don't like it when a bounty you've nearly completed is in the middle of the previous day's play session, and it will expire right in the middle of the next day's play session. While we still see expiration as a necessary mechanism to keep half-completed bounties from hanging around forever, we're going to relax some of the expiration times in Season 11 to give more time to close out yesterday's 19 out of 20 grenade kills. And they say, speaking of grenade kills, in general, we will be dialing back some of the time to complete bounty objectives to be more consistent. Unexpectedly, time-consuming objectives sneak in from time to time, and we generally want objectives in upcoming seasons to be a bit less restrictive in terms of how you play. Now, next week, they plan to talk about Eververse feedback and some changes they'll be making in store for future seasons. So, sorry for the long video, guys, but man, that was a lot to cover today, and I hope you did stay to the end. And if you did stay to the end, you know what to do. Leave me a good old hashtag, made it to the end, if you did make it to the end, and do me a favor, drop a like in this video only if you see fit. Follow me on Twitter at Mesa Sean, check out my stream, usually always on YouTube, and that's it. I am out of here like Vladimir.